Well, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter, and I'm getting ready to go on a bike ride. Yeah, I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm headed north. North isn't really a destination, it's more like a direction. But before I can take off down the road, I gotta get ready. I gotta get all my stuff together. I need to go through all my gear, get it all packed up and ready to go. I also need to make sure that my bike's ready for a long trip. For the last few weeks, I've been looking over maps, trying to pick out the best route. And just as important as anything else, I need to get mentally prepared. I need to get my head right. Bike touring's never easy, and it seems like it gets harder and harder every year. So how do you train for a bike tour? Short of going for a bike tour, I don't think there's any way to get fully prepared for a bike tour. I've always said anybody can ride their bike 60 miles in a day, but the hard part is to get up the next day and ride another 60 miles, and then the next day do the same thing, and so on and so on. I think it takes a good week or so, with a couple rest days in there, to really get your body road hardened so that you're semi-comfortable on the bike day after day. Your mileage may vary. During that first week, not only are your legs and heart and your lungs building up endurance, but your butt and your hands are toughening up too. So the more time you spend in the saddle before day one, the less pain you'll have during week one. Well, I guess the obvious answer is just get out and ride as much as you can before you go. But if you're like me, you've got other responsibilities, and you can't afford to spend hours and hours riding your bike just to train for a bike tour. So the first thing I need to do is get myself in shape. In my opinion, there's no way to get fully ready for a bike tour. So I've been off my bike since November, so I'm kind of out of shape. But about a month or so ago, I started riding again. I usually train down at the Tunnel Hill Trail. At first, I just rode 20 miles at a time. I did that about 2 or 3 times a week for a couple weeks. My legs felt like lead. The seat was uncomfortable, and all I wanted to do was stop and rest every half mile. After about 3 or 4 rides, my body got comfortable with 20 miles, so I increased it to 30. I didn't get winded as quickly, and I could sustain a pretty good pace. My legs were getting in shape, and my seat was starting to toughen up. After a couple rides at 30 miles, I increased it to 40 and then 50. It's taken several weeks, but I feel comfortable doing about 50 miles on a level rail trail with no gear on my bike. It's going to be different in real road conditions. Am I ready for a bike tour? Probably not as ready as I'd like to be, but I'm leaving tomorrow. But I'm going to go easy the first couple days. I'm going to take a couple rest days the first week and just ease on down the road. I'm headed north through Illinois, and Illinois is pretty level. There's not a lot of big hills. Plus, I hope to get a little bit of a tailwind the first couple days. At my age, it might take me a couple weeks to get road hardened. But that's alright, because I'm in no hurry. After that, it's going to be a piece of cake. In addition to getting my body ready, I also need to get my bike in shape. Last summer, I toured a couple thousand miles, and after a while, things start to wear out on your bike. Things like tires, chain rings, cassette, brake pads, all that stuff. It's not a bad idea to give your bike a good once-over and replace any worn-out parts. Those parts look like they might have some life left in them, but if they're more than half worn out, you might as well go ahead and replace them. Because as you get down the road in a bike tour, you're probably going to have to replace them anyway. And then in a pinch, with your bike broke down. I like to start a tour with fresh tires. It reduces the chance of flats anyway. If your chain's worn out, good idea to replace the chain, probably the middle chain ring, and maybe even the cassette. What about your hubs? When's the last time you had your wheel bearings cleaned and re-greased? I like to re-grease my hubs about every 3,000 miles. For me, that's about once a year. So I might as well do that before a tour. Just give me peace of mind. It's a good idea to give the whole bike a once-over. Check the wheel for loose or broken spokes and make sure the wheels are true. Make sure the brakes and the shifters are adjusted and working properly. It's almost impossible to tell when a brake cable or a shifter cable is going to break, so I always bring a couple spares with me just in case. To make things a little easier, this year I'm going to try something that I've never done before. I'm going to tour on my Trek 520 bike. I've had it for a while. It's a great bike, but I've never taken it out touring. Figured I'd try something new for a change. If it breaks down halfway down the road, I'll just swap it out for the Miata 1000. But I'm sure it'll work out fine. Trek 520 is an excellent touring bike. So what about your gear? Before a tour, I go through all my gear, make sure I got my stuff together. Got my panniers, my tent, my sleeping bag, my sleeping pad, my mess kit, all my clothes, my tools, my cameras, everything. Just go through all my stuff and make sure it's all ready to go. I'm setting out early this year, and I'm headed north. I'm expecting some cold weather, so I'm carrying some extra warm clothes with me just in case. If it turns out I don't need them, I'll just mail them home. I'm gonna go through my entire kit and see if there's anything I can really do without, especially some tools. I'm gonna try to lighten the load this year. So I'm leaving tomorrow from my home in southern Illinois, and I'm headed north. I'm probably gonna go to Chicago first, visit some family and friends. On the way, I'm gonna stop in Springfield, visit Abe Lincoln and the Illinois State Capitol. Then I'm gonna follow Old Route 66 all the way to Chicago. It's about 400 miles or so, and I'm gonna take my time. I'm planning on taking about 7 or 8 days. Honestly, this is really just kind of a warm-up ride for some more serious touring I'm gonna do in the mountains later this summer. Central Illinois is pretty flat, and I'm in no hurry. The state of Illinois puts out some excellent bicycling maps. They divide the state into 9 sections, and they show detailed back roads for every area. They even color code the roads for bike safety. Green is for good, red's for not so good, and yellow kind of in between. I haven't planned out the entire trip in detail. I just got the first couple days planned out. The rest remains kind of a general plan that I'm going to work out as I go. But the first night, I'm going to stay in DuQuoin. It's only about 40 or 50 miles, and they've got a couple motels in town, so I'm going to make reservations before I leave. I'm leaving from home, so that makes getting to my jump-off point pretty easy. I love a bike tour that starts on my own front porch. For another trip later this summer, I plan on starting on the West Coast. There's an Amtrak station in Carbondale, so I'll probably take the train, but that takes about 2 or 3 days. I could also fly out of St. Louis, but it's a 2-hour drive to the airport, and I'll have to have my wife drive me. Obviously, flying's a lot quicker, but I haven't decided which way to go yet. One of the most important things to get ready for a bike trip is your mind. Bike touring is physically demanding, and sometimes your mind has to convince your body to do something that it really doesn't want to do. Like get out of bed and ride another 60 or 70 miles when your legs are already tired. Bike touring can be as much mental as it is physical. You've got to manage fatigue, hydration, your calorie intake. You've got to navigate and not get lost and find your destination for the day so that you can bed down and get ready for the next day. There's lots of challenges to overcome, but that's what makes bike touring fun. Remember Type 2 fun? Not always fun at the time, but it's fun at the end of the day when you're looking back at it over an ice-cold root beer. With the right frame of mind, you can get over all the rough spots. So get your mind right. It's getting late, so I'm gonna get back to packing. Thanks for watching. Now I'm gonna go ride my bike.